24 hours from kickoff between LSU and Baylor in the Kinder's Texas Bowl over in Houston. Wilson Alexander covering the team for The Advocate has been over in Houston for a couple of days now. It gives us a little bit of time via the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Wilson, thanks so much for the time. How are you, man?
Doing well, Hunt. How are you?
Doing all right. Have you gone any like the cattle roping stuff or whatever they're doing over there? Is there some energy around this bowl game?
I don't know if energy is the right word for it necessarily. There's some activities.
Okay.
It was kind of funny because I remember they did the same thing back in 2021 when LSU played here, the rodeo thing, and you seen Whit Weeks and West Weeks and Kevin Peoples too, like trying to rope a wooden cow thing, and they're chasing down calves, and they're trying to pull a ribbon off of a tail of a bull or a cow or something. So it was all rather silly, but they say that event, the winner of it, usually goes on to win the game, and LSU won 6-1. So maybe it portends some good fortune.
Why would Baylor even show up then, is my thought. Well, actually, a lot of Baylor players are showing up, all but I believe two of them. LSU not as fortunate, specifically on the offense, and they've been able to head out to practice, and the offensive line has been getting a lot of attention. What can you tell us about what that looks like and what the expectation is for LSU's offensive line in this game?
Certainly looks a lot different from what we saw throughout the season, really throughout the past 2 years, because you don't have those bookend tackles now with Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Garrett Dellinger is out as well, and with that, he didn't come back off that high ankle sprain for this game. And so you're looking at offensive line left to right of Tyree Adams, Paul Mabenga, DJ Chester, Bo Bordelon / Cohen Eccles at right guard, and then Miles Frazier at right tackle. Brian Kelly said today they would rotate Bordelon and Eccles, and Miles Frazier had some really positive and things to say about Cohen Eccles, the way that he's looked here recently. Called him quite physical at the point of attack, and so we might be able to kind of see him get his first significant reps here in this game.
Despite what the fans might believe, the offensive line was a strength of this team, especially in pass protection. The issues in the run game were what they were, but they did a good job of keeping Garrett Nussmeier upright enough to throw for a lot of yards. How does the LSU offense change in your estimation with this new look?
I don't know what to expect exactly, because it's not just the offensive line where you've got these guys going. You don't have three of the top four pass catchers. So you've got some guys who have been here all season at the running back position, but can LSU establish the run in this game? Baylor has not had the best defense, but they've been a little bit more susceptible in the back end. So LSU is going to need to be able to keep throwing the ball and, probably continue to rely on that strength. But a lot of that's going to be key for this offensive line, this new group being able to come together and give Garrett Nussmeier that same amount of time. And we just don't know if he's going to necessarily have it, because even though I don't think Baylor's pass rush necessarily frightens you, it's not like some of the things that LSU saw this year with A&M or Ole Miss or anything like that. You got Tyree Adams playing his first career start at left tackle. Miles Frazier kicking out to right tackle again after playing guard for the last 2 years. Those new faces that we already mentioned at right guard. So there's going to be a lot of new guys out there that are going to have to give Garrett Nussmeier time for this offense to be able to operate.
Where do you think Trey'Dez Green's going to line up more often than not?
I think he'll line up more often than not at tight end. Brian Kelly was asked about him today and said that he's been really impressed with how Trey'Dez has kind of embraced that role in terms of the inline blocking. When we watched practice and they were running some simulated scripted plays, he was kind of where you would normally see Mason Taylor playing. There could be some, looks with him split out wide, kind of like you saw Mason Taylor do this year, when he could line up in the slot and that kind of thing. But with Trey'Dez being the only scholarship tight end on the roster, he's probably going to have to do a lot more of the traditional tight end stuff. Brian Kelly said today that they didn't just remake the whole offense and what that tight end position does, simply because all they have right now is Trey'Dez Green and Giovanni Peterson, a walk-on who's going to get some reps here as well. So he'll probably have to do a lot of the traditional tight end stuff, but maybe they'll split him out wide a little bit more often than maybe usual, just because that seems to be more of his strength.
This is a tougher question to answer. I'll try. I'll give you a shot. How much healthier do you think Caden Durham probably feels today than he did around Thanksgiving?
That is a tough question to answer, but I would say certainly healthier, because an injury like that time helps immensely. And, he was able to take a few weeks off between the end of the season and the start of bowl prep. And so I don't have an exact, percentage of how healthy he feels and that kind of thing, but he can't he has to feel better than he did back then after having a little bit of a break.
Let's switch over to the defense. Fewer losses there, but I think safety is a spot that a lot of people are a little interested in. What do you know about that?
Yeah, Javian Toviano and Deshaun Spears are going to get a lot more playing time, especially Toviano, who we didn't really see much of at all this season. Now that he is back at safety, and with Major Burns not playing in this game, Sage Ryan having transferred to Ole Miss, those two guys in particular are going to get a lot more reps. Starting Gilbert's still out there. I would expect him to probably start again, but the other safety spot is going to be either Spears or Toviano, and even then, they might rotate him some with Gilbert. And so you're going to get a lot of playing time out of those two, kind of a chance to really get a good evaluation on them going into the offseason.
No question. As far as the defensive tackle rotation goes, you got the older guys, Shand, Paez, they played a ton for you. And then I thought McKinley and Bro kind of showed some flashes late in the season. How do you think that rotation will look in this game?
Probably about the same as it did throughout the year. I mean, the only person, I guess, who's really a part of that rotation who's no longer here is JVR Suggs. And so, it's probably going to have Shand and Paez starting again with a lot of Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley. LSU, next year they got to replace a ton on this defense, but at least for this game, on the defensive side, a lot of these seniors didn't opt out. Braden Swinson, Savion Jones, Gio Paez, Parrish Shand, Greg Penn, they're all playing. Zy Alexander as well, and so LSU's defense remained pretty close to intact. Other than that safety position from where it was during the season. So I would expect that rotation at defensive tackle to be pretty similar to what they had throughout the year.
Last week, Matt Musso was hosting AFR for Moscona, and he had a Baylor beat writer on from the Waco paper. And the question was like, how are vibes over in Waco? And they're like, they couldn't be higher. 6 wins in a row. Everyone's really excited. Big time opponent in the game. Like, this is a big weekend for Baylor. What do you get the sense is the energy level from the LSU side? We kind of led with that, but you've been around practice and done some interviews. How do you feel about their energy level going into this game?
Yeah, seeing them come into the team hotel the other day, and just anytime I've kind of been around the players, they just seem loose. I mean, are they super jazzed about the Texas Bowl? I don't know. They'd probably rather be somewhere else. But I think the guys who are here do really want to play well and win this game. I mean, they still have a sour taste in their mouth from going 8-4 this year. They aren't happy about that, and I think they want to try to end the season on a high note. A lot of the guys who, especially kind of the core of the team, when you talk about going into next year, like Garrett Nussmeier and Weeks and Aaron Anderson and some of these guys, they're going to be back next year, and they don't want to end the season on a loss. I think that the vibe has been pretty good around them. Are they maybe as energized as a Baylor team on a 6-game winning streak, went 3-9 last year and is playing in its first bowl game since 2022? Maybe it's a little bit of a different sense, but I think that the motivation is still there, at least for the guys who are playing in this game.
It's natural for folks like us that are kind of analyzing this team and covering it to start to look toward 2025 at the end of 2024. Based on what they've done the last 3 weeks in the transfer portal, has your outlook for next year's LSU team changed than it was before Thanksgiving?
I think I don't know that my evaluation has changed a ton. I think what they have done, at least though, is address the holes that they had on that roster. But we got to kind of let it see it play out before it's really going to be obvious whether or not that's going to propel them to like a playoff berth like they need to try to get to next year. Just because, I mean, you look at last year, Ole Miss signed the number 1 transfer portal class in the country, and they still went 9-3 and missed the playoff. But Oregon had the number 2 class, and now they're the number 1 seed. It can be so hit or miss in the portal. A team like Florida State that was always relying on it plummets within a year. Whereas a team like Indiana signed the 28th ranked class in the country, transfer class in the country, and they made the playoffs. So I think what they've at least done is address the holes that they had on this roster. Go and they still need to get some safeties. Brian Kelly said today they're not done looking for offensive linemen, but they've probably done the best that they could in the position that they were in to refill this roster, address the problems that they had, and then we'll see as we get into the spring and into next season exactly if those players can translate to helping this team take a step forward.
You a Tex-Mex guy or barbecue guy there in Houston?
Barbecue.
There you go. Well, enjoy some of that. Enjoy the football. Safe travels back to Baton Rouge. Thanks, Wilson.
Thanks for the time, Hunt. Y'all have a happy New Year.
Same to you. It's Wilson Alexander with The Advocate. He'll be there in Houston covering it all, so you can check his stuff out at The Advocate or on Twitter as well. We appreciate a little bit of time. It's interesting. I said this when we really started looking at this game early last week. I was like, look, we've seen the joke bowl games. The ones where John Trey Kirkland's playing quarterback, the one where Purdue doesn't bring half their team, Florida State last year. Like, you see some of that. This one doesn't feel like that. I think either team could win. I'll pick the game at the end of the show, and you'll kind of see where I'm leaning. Yes, LSU is more compromised than Baylor from an opt-out perspective. I also think LSU had a better team for 4 months than Baylor. So I think it's pretty level. I think it could go either way. I'll give you my pick, but I do think for those that are locked in on this and you bleed purple and gold and you can't wait to knock off work early tomorrow or lock in early tomorrow or get the ice chest out or start cooking something in the morning, like if you're really locked in for an LSU football game tomorrow, and hey, that's awesome. I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I really, based on what the research I can do and what's available to me, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive game. So at least we can say that at this point, where you pretty much knew 2 years ago and 3 years ago it wasn't going to be very competitive. I don't think that's the case tomorrow. So we'll see. Appreciate Wilson for a little bit of time. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.